So today is March 16th, 2022. I planted 6 fruit trees on April 11th of 2021. Here's one of them. That's an apple tree. Towards the back over there is a peach. I've got another apple right over here. And then these other sticks that you see are really just markers. This is where I'm going to be moving the 3 other trees. I also did not realize at the time that you can plant fruit trees a lot closer together than you think. So I put these at about 15 feet apart in a triangle. And then I also added over there in the distance a fig tree that almost got killed by a dog I was fostering for a time. That branch is just a branch to mark it. The fig tree is like way down here, really, really tiny. That little bit there is the fig tree. I'm just marking it so I can remember where it is, but that's a dead branch. So I'm a little bit nervous about transplanting the trees. When I got these trees a year ago, they came bare root and they were dormant. I just had to wake them up and get them planted, and I was hoping I wouldn't move them again. But, you know, location's not so great. So what I'm going to try to do, I've got a hole that's, I hope, deep enough. I've got some really loose soil there if it turns out it's not deep enough, but I also don't want it to be too deep. My hope is to disturb the roots in the tree that I'm moving as little as possible. Bring it in one giant ball and just bring it over. I feel like the less I can disturb the roots, probably the happier the plant will be in the end. So right over here is where the cherry tree used to be. And, you know, when I planted it in April, the trees hadn't really leafed out yet. And I was like, oh, this is a great spot. Like, the sun comes up just to my right over there. It'll be great. But all these trees, oh, do they ever make some shade. And if you really look closely at the yard all through the front here, it's like mostly moss, which kind of indicates it's not getting a lot of sun in here. Well, I think that went pretty well. Here's the cherry tree in its new place between the 2 apple trees. Now I got to get 2 more holes for the pear trees coming from the front. And then over here, kind of on the northeastern side of the house, are the 2 pear trees that I'm going to be moving. And they weren't too bad off with where I put them in terms of sun. As you can see from like all the puddling going on, because we just had a lot of rain last night, this is, you know, the drainage zone kind of running away from the house. So I mean, they're getting a lot of water, which is good, but they might be getting too much water. So here we are, all the trees moved, and I also went ahead and, you know, put some mulch around the base of them. Tried to even add it to the ones that were already here. Mulch is always a good idea. And now the sun's out, it's probably pushing like 5 o'clock or so, so, you know, mid-March, so you can kind of get a sense of like what the light is going to look like through here. So here we are, the day after doing some transplanting. It is March 17th, 2022, and I'm going to go ahead and do some pruning. These are the trees pre-pruning, coming at it from standing right over where the fig is. All right, let's talk for just a minute about the logic of the pruning. A lot of this has come from several videos I've watched, and also a lot of it came from reading this book, Grow a Little Fruit Tree by Ann Ralph. This was what I really wanted to finish reading last night, so I had as much information as possible. And what all of these different sources are suggesting is you can be really aggressive with your pruning cuts, especially early on. Now, all of these trees I got bare root about a year ago, and what I did not know then and wish I had known was that I really should have pruned them right away. Did not realize that. So we are going into the 2nd year. I'm going to go ahead and do a pruning cut as if it were a first-year pruning cut and hope that we're still early enough that it'll be okay. What Ann Ralph is suggesting is that Really should have done it last year, but you might be able to get by if you do it early enough. It's still winter. These trees are still dormant. One of them, the peach tree, is just starting to wake up, so I feel like that one's probably got the biggest risk right now, but I also think if I don't do it, I'm going to end up with problems down the road. So the idea is you want to cut back pretty far on the very first pruning. And what I've done, this is a tip that came out of this book, is I marked all of the trees with some blue masking tape with where I think I want to cut it. And so that gives me a chance to look at what is the tree likely to do from this cut? How is it going to respond? And as you can see, this tree here, you know, it's about halfway down. It's roughly knee height on all of them. I put it at or slightly above where my knee is. And you know, this is kind of terrifying, and it kind of is for me too. She refers to it in one chapter as the hardest cut you'll ever make. And it certainly is going to be. And if anybody's watching this and going, Sean, you're crazy, you're about to kill your tree. Well, it doesn't seem like that's the case. The logic is that right now, these trees, since they're dormant, they have all their energy down in their roots that they stored up from last year. And it's all just sitting down there waiting to be released. And as it starts to warm up, we're about to be moving into spring here, these trees are about to start waking up. And in fact, you can see just the bare beginnings of buds even here. So even this one is starting to wake up. And as that happens, it's going to be this rush of energy coming up the tree from those roots. If you cut it, if you prune it, you don't let the energy get up in here. You force that energy to come through lower down. And it's going to trigger a response in the tree, where the tree is then going to say, oh man, I don't have all the stuff I had before. How am I going to get that energy back this year? I better grow new branches. And it's going to explode these branches out here. And then from there, you can kind of, you're in a dialogue with the tree, basically. You can kind of decide from there, what do I want to do next? But that'll be for later this summer. But I'm going to record all this now, and then I'm going to come back in the summer and show what's going to happen. And if it goes the way I've been watching it in other videos and reading about in this book, I think I'm going to end up with some incredible growth over the next few months. Okay, so here we are zoomed in on where I'm going to cut. And it's kind of at a weird angle, but right here, just below where that tape is, there's a little nodule that's right there. And so I'm going to cut at about a 45-degree angle just above it as a way to kind of help encourage that to become a branch. And then I've already got a little bit of a branch right here. It's going to shoot a lot of energy into that. And then I'm hoping it may also do some stuff with like a couple of these other nodules lower down. The idea is to get like between 3 and 5 scaffolding branches. And I think what I'm going to aim for with all of these trees is what's called the, I forgot the name of it. Basically, it's like a goblet. We're going to try to make like an open shape. And the idea is the branches will all go out, and you'll have a lot of interior for the sun to hit the leaves, because you really need the sun to get fruit. If you let the tree get too big, all the lower branches aren't going to get enough sunlight, so they're not going to produce fruit anymore. So, here we go. We're about right there. Okay, first cut done. All right, the other thing that you're supposed to do when you are pruning is just to make sure you don't accidentally transfer any diseases or anything between trees. You want to sanitize your clippers. And I really don't have the best clippers. They're a little rusty, they're old, I should probably replace them. But they're still sharp, they worked. But I am going to sanitize between each one. Alright, I feel like just to keep it balanced, I'm going to go ahead and do the other peach tree. This is my, I'm not peach, I keep saying peach, I mean pear. My other pear tree. This is the Bartlett pear. So this time where I'm cutting, I'm going to cut right at the bottom here. And there's actually a bunch of possible there's a bunch of little stubs coming off of here that could all become branches. So this may be one that I'm going to come back to a little bit earlier in the summer and kind of see what's going on and maybe trim some of that up a bit, maybe even cut it back a little further, depending on like where the growth is. But there's like so many options. It's already pretty low here, and I don't really know what the tree's going to do. So I'm going to give it a chance to kind of respond to me and tell me what it's thinking, and then I'll kind of go from there. It's a bit of a dialogue, bit of a dance, you know. Okay, so this one, cutting with that particular nodule. There we go. Okay, that is my Bartlett. Okay, let's move to the apple trees. Oh, this probably is going to be the hardest one, because look how, I mean, this thing is like taller than I am now, and I don't want to get rid of it. But I also know that like honestly, that's as tall as I really want the tree to get anyway. If it gets any taller than this, I won't be able to reach the branches. So we're gonna bring it way down here. We're gonna bring it back to here. And there's a bunch of knobs again, kind of like on the other pear tree. I got it right this time. There's a bunch of little nodules that have started to form, didn't really go anywhere. It was putting more of its effort, it looked like, into these branches here. We're gonna make it put that energy into these branches and let that start to fill out here. And it'll come back, I'm sure. So, I've sanitized my blades again. Let me go from this side. Okay. Oop, almost got it. Okay, here we are with the other apple tree. The other one, by the way, the first one I did was a Ben Davis. I was reading online that one's a pretty old variety. I think I read it's been around since like early to mid 1800s. So it's an apple variety I'd never heard of, but apparently it's got some staying power. This one is a pink lady. And the thing with apple trees, and it was the same thing with the pear trees too, they generally need another tree of a different variety to properly pollinate. If you only have the one tree, it's probably not going to pollinate, so you're probably not going to get anything. So that's part of why I have two. When I get to the peach and the cherry in just a second here, those do well with co-pollinators, but I got varieties that are self-pollinating, so, well, not self-pollinating, still need like bees and whatnot, I think, but they will pollinate on their own just fine and produce fruit. You know, one day I might get other varieties too, just because I'm reading that you can get more production out of a tree if you have a co-pollinator, but they should be okay. Anyway, okay, these have been cleaned. I think they're dry enough now. We are going to cut here. Again, we have a few little knobs coming out. I like all four of these because they're all coming out in different directions. So I want to kind of build on that and hope that we can make some open design scaffolding that'll come outward all around. So I'm going to cut right above this little one in the back. Oh, I did catch it that time. Okay, here we are at the cherry tree. Let me make sure, yeah, this is the cherry tree. And this is one of the ones, in addition to the two pear trees over there, that I just transplanted yesterday. So it didn't really do so hot, it didn't grow a whole lot. I'm hoping that here it will have much better sunlight. We're definitely going to be bringing it down. So there's a few things I've got going on here. So the main leader here, I'm going to go ahead and cut off right here above these four nice branches that are coming in. These are some, if these come out this way, they're pretty well at even angles from each other. They're coming out in really good directions. So the first thing I want to do is I want to cut back there to get, there we go, to get that going the way I want it. So there's one down. But then, you notice I've got marks on these other two branches here as well. I want to kind of encourage a little more outward growth, and also, you know, this one here, the branch is kind of coming back at a weird angle. I don't want it to do that. This one, probably be okay, but there's a nice little knob right here that would keep going out this way, and then over here I've got a little one right here that would send it out that way rather than kind of back towards its neighbor here. So we are going to, I'm in the right spot here, we are going to trim those as well. And the idea of winter pruning, like right now, you know, as we're ending winter going into spring, is going to really invigorate growth. You get a lot of growth in the winter when you prune. If you prune in the summer, you're really like size managing. You're controlling size. It's not gonna impact as much the growth overall. It won't grow much more after that anyway, because it's going into dormancy after midsummer. We'll talk about that later. But right now, like we're going to encourage a lot of growth, and we're trying to encourage it in certain directions that we've already put on here. All right, we've now made it to the peach tree, the last tree that's going to get pruned. I don't know, I thought the apple tree that was tall was hard. This one might be harder because it's already got these buds coming in, but I'm hoping that it is still early enough that I can really shape some stuff going on here. So again, kind of like with the cherry tree, there's a lot of directions going on. I can't tell if this tree like wants to have a central leader or not. But even if it does, it's really unbalanced. It's got like trees all kind of going this way and nothing much going this way. There's this one little one right here. So I'm going to try to encourage some direction, some like spreading out of the direction. And I'm also really hoping well, not hoping. This is a tree that I think I'm going to need to come back to early summer as well. So I'm going to cut here. There's a little nodule right here, so I'm hoping that'll send something out this way. Although that could put it in parallel with this one down here, and you don't really want parallel branches. But I'm going to see what happens and cut one of those two later on. And then on this this is a really good branch that's coming out here. I'm really excited about what this might do. It's super low, looks like it's going to have good support. I'm going to cut it right here below the tape, and you can't see it, but immediately below the tape, right on the other side, there's one little nodule. There's a few here that are starting to leaf out, and we'll see what they do, but I'm really hoping this one will come out this way, and so we'll get some more growth out here. And then this is kind of this double branch right now, and I know I ultimately don't want the double branch, but I haven't decided which way I want it to go. I'm going to cut this little piece here because it looks dead, just this edge piece here. And then I'm also going to cut it here. There's this nodule here that's kind of on the side that looks like it'll grow out sort of that way. Still not exactly what I want. This tree doesn't have perfect options, but you got to work with what you have. So there's a lot that I'm going to have to come back to probably early in the summer. So, you know, these branches, I'm going to have to figure out what's going on. But we've got to do something for now, and we're just going to kind of hope that we're doing something good here. Okay, there's one. Ooh, we're going to see if that'll root. Okay, let's go and get rid of this dead piece here. Just sit there. Then, okay, this one, I'm going to go ahead and take the tape off so that I can really see what I'm doing. Oh no, I did not get a clean cut. Shoot. Well, okay, let's hope you can recover from that. And we're going to, again, take the tape off here. Oof, you know what? That's why I try to put the blade on the side of the nodule itself. There we go. And, wow. That was drastic. But, you know, it's weird. Now that I've done it, I also feel a lot more confident about this one because since it's already got a bunch of those green pieces coming in, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that's where it's going to go. It's already moving. It's going to put all that energy into that. So I think I'm going to have a nice little peach shrub going on soon. Anyway, so we'll check back in a few months and see. Okay, so here we are post pruning. It is very different. But it's interesting. Now that it's gone, I can also see so much more possibility and so much more potential. So, stay tuned. We'll see what more is going to come. Last thing I'll point out here, I am bringing those clippings that I'm going to try to root. They are in jars of water, as you can see, and I brought them in here into the garage. They've got this window here, which is a southeast-facing window, so the garage gets some pretty significant light for like a couple of hours in the mid to late morning. But then it goes away pretty quickly, so I'm hoping that that will work well for this. It's not super bright otherwise, and I read somewhere that you don't want to have too much sun because you can cook them, but you need some lights that'll do their thing. We're going to see what happens. It's trial and error, you know. We're just going to learn by doing. Experiential learning, I think, is what we used to call it when I was a teacher.